Good morning, boys and girls. All right, so we're still in waiting mode in terms of because of Mr. Turrupt. The class is at the hospital. People started leaving, and they're waiting for the results from the surgery and see how things are going out. Okay. All right, so now we're at Act 11, Scene 5 with Jessica, and this is the only character we're going to read about today. And guess what? The next time we do this, we will be starting the month of June. Let's see what happens between here and then. All right, Jessica, here we go. Act 11, Scene 5. We dropped Lexi off first, then Jeffrey. I sat in the front passenger seat, and Jeffrey sat in the back. Before he got out, I asked him, "You okay, Jeffrey?" "Yeah, I'm okay," he said. "Thanks for helping me in there. Thanks, Miss Reitman." "You're welcome," we said together. "I'm sure everybody's wondering what's up with me," he said. "Don't worry, your secret is still safe," I said. Remember the secret about what happened to his brother? Jeffrey opened the back door, but he didn't get out right away. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you, Jess. What happened to Turrupt isn't your fault. You need to stop thinking that it is." Jeffrey's words startled me. I did feel guilty. I'd roped Danielle and Anna into my wicked plan, which led to Peter's devastating snowball. "Then why did it happen, Jeffrey?" I said. "I told you things happen for a reason. I still don't know mine." "Neither do I," he said. "But knowing the reason doesn't make it your fault." We sat quietly. Mom didn't say anything. I stared down at my hands. They longed for a book to hold. I fidgeted with my nails and cuticles instead. Then Jeffrey spoke again. "I know one thing, Jess." He'd called me Jess twice now. "You've helped me. I haven't had someone to talk to in a long time. Thank you." He climbed out of our car and shut the door. Before driving away, we saw Jeffrey's mother standing at the front door to his house waiting for him. And she wasn't wearing pajamas. They hugged. Mom and I had tears in our eyes as we drove away. More of Mr. Turrupt at work. I just knew it. We hadn't driven very far before Mom broke the silence. "Jessica, I need to tell you some things that even adults have a hard time understanding. But I need you to try, okay?" I nodded and sat up straight in my seat to readjust the seatbelt. "I know you've been wrestling with the issue of whose fault Mr. Turrup's accident is, as many of your class. Poor Peter's really struggling, and I'm afraid the only one that might help him is Mr. Turrupt." Mom slowed to the stop sign and looked both ways. "So whose fault is it?" I asked, my voice raising. Emotion can do that to you. Mom just went with the flow. She turned the car left and stepped on the accelerator. "Mr. Turrup's," she said. I looked out my window. I didn't want to hear it. "Look, Jessica, you don't have to agree with me, and not everyone will, but you need to hear me out. Let me explain." Slowly, reluctantly, I looked at her. I didn't want her to be right. "Thank you," she said. "I told you it wasn't going to be easy." We slowed at the red light. "All those instances with Peter earlier in the year, and with Luke's plant concoction and all that other mischief," Mom paused. "I think Mr. Turrupt handled them the way he did because he was trying to teach you guys some personal responsibility." The light turned and Mom pushed the gas. "But that's what cost him in the end. He let you play rough that day in the snow and hoped you wouldn't cross the line. But he made it your responsibility not to cross that line because he didn't intervene." "But how is that bad? Isn't that one of the reasons he was so special? Because he gave us those chances?" "Don't use the past tense, honey. He is special." "Fine," I said, annoyed, but glad to talk about him in the present. "But isn't it?" I was annoyed because I didn't want the conversation slowed. I wanted answers. I cracked my window, suddenly hot. I let the wind hit me in my face. It is indeed one of the reasons he's special. But in the end, you're still just kids. And asking you to assume that much responsibility isn't fair. You can't be expected to handle it all the time. So that's why it's his fault. Mom spoke so calmly. I knew she was trying to keep me from getting too upset. It's his fault for asking us to act like adults when we're just kids, I said, restating Mom's argument. Whereas if he had taken the responsibility out of our hands by making us stop playing rough, then there probably never would have been a snowball thrown. I looked at Mom. That's right, exactly, she said. Well, I think that makes about as much sense as Dad and his girlfriend. Our car swerved. Mom was in shock. We hadn't spoken about Dad in a while, but he and his stupid girlfriend boiled to the surface of my upset feelings. Plus, I have a strong vocabulary and could have probably selected a nicer word for her, though I doubt I could have chosen a more accurate one. So now, if Mr. Turrup gets better, he's going to get in trouble. Is that right too? Not necessarily, Mom said. And watch your language. Besides, to say airhead and bimbo is a bit redundant, though I'll agree the new woman in your dad's life is real floozy. The car slowed and Mom pulled into our driveway. She put the car in park and turned it off. I undid my seatbelt. Jessica, I've spoken to Mrs. Williams and to some of the other parents and adults at school on several different occasions. We've been talking because we're worried about how you're all dealing with this. Nobody wants to see Mr. Turp get in trouble, including Mrs. Williams and the school. Everyone knows he's a great teacher. We all just want him to get better. Mom leaned over and gave me a hug. I hugged her back. You know, Terry told me the other day that Anna asked her if their situation is her fault. Anna's fault, I said. Of course it isn't. Exactly, Mom said. I hope you know what happened between your father and me is not at all your fault either. I need to bear that. I hugged her again, but I didn't say anything because talking would have made me cry. And Mom was quiet too, I think for the same reason. Quiet love filled our car. All right, boys and girls. Doesn't give us too many answers, but it seems like a lot of things that have happened in this book are because of Mr. Turrup. And that leads us to the next reading of June. And we will find out what is going on. It looks like they might be getting towards the last days of school then. We'll see if he makes it. All right, boys and girls, until next time.